Hi, my name is Peyton Harkins. I'm an instructor here for Bold Music in Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Today we are going to talk through very quickly 4-bar phrasing. This video is meant to accompany a Word document, so if you could have both open at the same time, that would help a lot. What is 4-bar phrasing? That is something that even people who don't quite understand what it means use all the time. If we think about language, there are natural periods and pauses in the way we communicate with one another. One, so it helps us process the information better, and two, so it gives us a chance to breathe. In music, there are similar, naturally occurring breaks in phrases. And by breaks, I don't mean an actual stop in the music. I just mean either a chance for the phrase itself to repeat, or to go on to a brand new phrase with new chords and possibly new rhythms. Inherent to music history and almost in a biological way, humans want to hear these groups in fours, whether they're 4 measures, whether they're 2 4-measure groups, whether they are 4 4-measure groups in total of 16 measures. What comes most natural to us when we're listening to, processing, writing, and analyzing music are understanding them in these chunks. And it just so happens the thing that's most natural is to do them in these 4-bar chunks. So if we are looking at the 4-bar phrase doc, the first thing we talk about are measures and bar lines. Just a little bit of housekeeping there so you can understand what the rest of the document looks like. The first example is a 4-bar phrase with the chords G, C, D7, and back to G, and we feel complete, right? Not only because the harmony tells us it's complete, but also because it's a nice symmetrical 4-bar group. So if I do a finger picking exercise with this and I repeat the phrase, it will sound like this. G, C, D7, G, repeat, G, C, D7, G. Now I just play that twice, so that's 8 measures. Why isn't it an 8-bar phrase? Well, I just repeated the same chords twice. So I took one 4-bar chunk and I repeated it. Now if I were writing a song, I might do that 4 times and write some lyrics over it and call that a verse. Then I might write a new 4-bar phrase, do that 4 times and call that a chorus. Boom, there's the whole song. Now 4-bar phrases can be super simple or super complex, but the amazing thing about them is as complex as the harmonies get, when you strip all of that away, most of the time you are just left with a 4-bar chunk. That's not to take away from the time put into writing songs, simple or complex, but because that's the way we listen to and write music, that's a lot of the times how it ends up being, divided up at least. The next is an example of a 4-bar phrase, but we have 3 beats per measure. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. This is an interesting example as 3 seems like an uneven number. Even though we have 3 beats per measure, which is a very different sound than 4, we still come back to this idea of 4 individual measures of the 3 beats themselves. So that's an example of a different rhythm still abiding by this underlying expected 4-bar chunk. Now we're looking at the next page, the application of 4-bar phrasing. Here's a Stevie Wonder tune, which is kind of complex if you think about it. It's Stevie Wonder's typical jazz funk fusion sound, which by default is a little more complicated, at least playing and listening to, than a lot of pop music, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is an example of a sort of more complicated sound still following the 4-bar rule. So we've got an A section and a B section. The A section, F sharp, B, E, C sharp, F sharp, B, E. So pretty funky sounding chords, jazzy sounding chords. Right? Still abiding by this 4-bar chunk. The B section, A major, G7, C sharp, back to the F sharp, B, B, E, G sharp, back to A. Okay, again, we've got A, these really funky, crunchy jazz chords, still abiding by the 4-bar phrase. If you take a look at this entire phrase, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 measures in the first A section, and in the B section, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now in the B section, we have a B chord that repeats twice, or for 2 measures, and an E chord that also repeats twice, or for 2 measures. So if we take these crunchy, funky, jazzy sounding chords and just think about how they're used, we have 2 8-bar chunks that are each divided into 4-bar chunks. So a total of 16 measures actually makes up this entire song. The whole arrangement, the electric keyboard, there might be some brass in there, the bass, the guitar, all the funky, really complicated, cool things all these instruments are doing, and the awesome melodies Stevie wrote, and the really cool lyrics. You take all that away, you end up with these symmetrical, repeating 4-bar ideas. Going down, looking at the next example with the number 39 by it, still 4 bars, but this is an example of chords changing inside the measure. But if we still count, we have 4 measures with 16 total beats, more 4 bars. Lastly, we're going to look at a more complex form, the 12-bar blue. I'm sure you've heard that, 12 bar referring to 12 measure, so you could just as easily call it the 12 measure blues. Guess what? 3 4-bar chunks make up the 12-bar blues. Nice and clean, super symmetrical. The minor blues and the major blues are both 12 bars. It's just a different use of chords. But if we count all the measures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for the minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for the major. 3 4-bar chunks make up each of these. So again, here's a totally different form, totally different sound, totally different vibe, all coming back to the 4-bar chunk. So I challenge you to write your own 4-bar chunks and practice repeating them. That will help getting used to feeling this 4-bar idea and executing it yourself, and also analyzing the music you already love, know, and play, and finding the 4-bar chunks inside of those. You might find that entire songs are only written with 4 bars, or 8. Happy practicing.